Hi, classmates. Well, congratulations to us. Let's just start off with that. But my name is Taylor Zuber. I'm here for SWG 614. This is our assignment in regards to asynchronous video and what we kind of want to orchestrate this video about for um, our last class here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this part of the assignment, which is just wants us to summarize part A and part B of what we had initially done for this class. So I'll go ahead and just summarize what my focus was on for. So, historically speaking, in the 1980s, addiction treatment providers were experiencing an increase in pressure to explain justification in terms of residential and inpatient programs and the length of stay. I found this information from Lee 2013. So, what that means, in other words, clinically speaking, would be the criteria had to become more defined. If you are familiar with addiction and substance use, ASAM is a Bible in terms of the addiction and just a really resourceful book that we utilize a lot when working with the addiction population or substance use population. So what this is a clinical book. The book is driven to kind of establish and erode more of the gray areas in terms of addiction treatment. We have come a very long way in looking at this as an actual disease. The DSM-5 has also orchestrated a lot of beneficial treatments, I would say, in terms of actually classifying substance use as a source or as a axis on the DSM-5 as well. So that is another beneficial way or a medical necessity in this field in which we're using evidence or criteria to help support addiction and the addiction population and how we triage this population. So based on if it would be one-dimensional or it came from a one-dimensional to a multi-dimensional assessment. So typically it's used, how we assess would be based on the six dimensions, and that would kind of cater to the level of care that someone would need that is going in for substance use addiction. Excuse me. What I wanted to focus my paper or the part of my paper on is the ecology systems. So I wanted to focus more with a specific emphasis to the caretakers of those that are caretaking for co-occurring or co-occurring enhanced persons or people that are going through a addiction program, treatment, therapy, what have you. So we have done a great job. Again, just to recap, my paper on the first assignment focused on how we've done a great job of coming along clinically in terms of the addiction population and the level of care and how we treat those that are needing these services. However, my focus is on what do we do with those individuals, patients, significant others, spouses, caretakers, or caregivers. How do we provide treatment for them as well, right? Because when you're going and you're caretaking for someone, um, which is approximately, I found a very good statistics. It's at approximately 9.2 million adults in the United States have co-occurring disorders, and this was from SAMHSA website, and that was in 2018. So, specifically, the co-occurring disorders population often suffer from two or more disorders and simultaneously have experienced with substances leading to a continuum of mental health and or substance use. Um, so medically assisted programs, again, a great way that we can help to treat those that are going through um, services or needing addiction services. But where does that leave us in terms of the caretakers and the caregivers? So SAMHSA does, it's another website in which it provides clinical information and support is what I had found for these groups. Another one that I had found was NAOMI um, and CIT, so Crisis Intervention Team. So, what they focus on in these websites are different ways in which it's a clinical direction to help those that are suffering um, or to help the population that is helping or that is working and caretaking for the co occurring or the addiction, the person that is suffering from the addiction disorder. So Alnami as well, that's another support group for members that are or families that are coping with mental health disorders and substance use. But therefore, my argument is still that the supportive networks available, we need to make them more available and more accessible. So this includes in treatment planning. So typically there will be a discharge paperwork if we have someone experiencing mental health issues that are significant enough for hospitalization or even to go to be assessed at the hospital. We would send our clients there just to do the initial assessment, but whoever they go there with, or even if they go by themselves, I think, or my strongest argument would be that we put something in there, a disclaimer in there saying that these are the resources that those that are caretaking for this population, these are the resources, these are the websites, because how are we providing that advocacy to this group and this population of people? Again, we have done and we have come along since the 1982 or 1960s um, from the term of actually understanding substance use, but how are we helping the caregivers and the caretakers? Um, Speaking from someone that has had experience with that, it is definitely it's definitely a need. It's definitely an area in which I feel we can continue to make greater efforts to um, putting caregivers first and allowing caregivers to utilize these resources as part of their intervention plan and as part of their success in recovery as well, and going through recovery with their significant other, loved one, family member, what have you. So that was kind of my rationale that I went with in part A. Part B of this paper, um, I had focused on exploring the dynamics in the support systems so that are reinforced for, again, the caregivers, the guardians, the uh, co-occurring population and co-occurring enhanced population. So I had mentioned in this paper that it would be beneficial to allow 2 weeks of weekly group meetings offered to loved ones in caretaking for co-occurring and substance or mental health use population. So I would use a strength-based approach using a socio cultural or multilingual, confidential and safe meeting space with relevant secondary treatment care or respite care, and providing additional supportive telehealth resources. So if there were members in the group in which just couldn't make it to the on-site or in-person session, I would love to be able to provide that via telehealth or also record. I think that's another great feature in which if you can't catch it right in the moment or if there's something else scheduled, it allows for you to revert back to the ability of having that effective non-operational goals of team building and just to promote effective group thinking. So that was my rationale. I think the best therapy that you could use would be dialectic behavioral therapy. So this therapy, I think, allows for a lot of practical toolbox and utilization of resources, especially to those that are living with the co-occurring or co-occurring enhanced population. Um, for example, I gave an example of how it would be beneficial in detox or even a maintenance tool and a gateway to having better and effective communication with your significant other. So, one of the messages in dialectical therapy is using iMessages. So, this could be just another efficient way in which you could communicate with your partner or your significant other. Again, this would be a support group So it would be more of like a self-help or support group. It would be with the basis of community basis, or if you want to look at it on the characteristics of the three model or community planning, this would be one that could be like a locality development. So the goal again would be to self-help or improve the community or those that are living with a co-occurring population. And how can we effectively do that? Evidence-based relevance to the social work and the intervention. Again, dialectical therapy, that would be um, my evidence-based, I guess you could say, modality that I would use when working with this population. It also provides a certain amount of psychoeducational therapy as well. So using these resources and tools to help the population in having an increase of communication, successful communication between their narrative thoughts, their feelings, and their behaviors that they may be cycling through on a regular basis, as well as their partners. So kind of divvying into CBT as well. Um, a discussion of the group evaluation overall. So I think my best evaluation that I would be utilizing in in this treatment would probably be group surveying, so providing CRSs, so client implementation of the feedback. So really getting my information and getting the success rate of my psychotherapy provided or given um, based on the clients report how they provided their feedback. And I would do that after each and every session. I think that this can be very beneficial in terms of understanding what that looks like in areas that could use improvement as well. Community collaboration or a relevant connection between the group and the design. What would the group provide to the community to enhance the strengths? So community collaboration here, I think it is effective to always remember the quote that I remembered by that there is strength in numbers. So adversity happens, and I'm in Almeja. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correct, but this was the person that had stated that quote, so that there are strengths in numbers. So adversity happens on a daily basis. Usually that could be discrimination against race, gender, sex, spirituality, non-spirituality, human beings. So my goal overall would be to create resiliency and awareness to people living with those in the co-occurring population. So I think this could be a community collaboration by everyone wanting the same goal, and that goal would be to successfully communicate with their partners, and or also to how to work through this together as a community or as a group. Um, what would the group provide to the community to enhance its strengths? So I think overall, when you talk about in terms of enhancing the community, I think by working together, so again, having more than one person come together and utilize all the community resources would be helpful, or even just as the self help or support group that you can adapt and learn new ways in which you can communicate. Um, Amongst each other or in a group setting, and or kind of use those skills um, onward um, when you're working with your significant other or family members. So thank you for listening to this presentation. I wish you all the best of luck, and I am happy we're almost done. Thanks.